Okay, welcome to the 75th annual DragonCon Webcomics panel.
Hey.
Let's start by introducing ourselves, starting from the right.
Hi, I'm Obi. I'm like
Into the microphone.
right into whoa, it's like magic. So I'm Obi. I'm the writer-ish and technical guy for Devil's Panties, and
I'm Jennie Breeden. I'm the artist and web monkey of Devil's Panties.
procrastinator.
My name is Yale Stewart. I'm the creator of the webcomic JL8.
Woo! Yay! Lovely.
Y'all don't even know what that is.
Hey, I know what that is. It's adorable.
I'm a really big fan.
Oh, thank you.
I've been trying to fan the girl all over you.
I'm a big fan of everyone up here. I'm Bill Holbrook. I do Kevin and Kel.
I'm John Lotshaw. I do Accidental Centaurs and Random Acts of Nancy.
I'm Adam Withers,
And I'm Comfort Love.
and we are the husband and wife action faction who make the Uniques, Rainbow in the Dark, and the recently
It's been
it's
three
late
panels
on
in a
a
row.
Sunday at DragonCon, and the recently released Complete Guide to Self-Publishing Comics.
So I guess we need to start with questions, and I guess the first one I would ask is, who has the best audience feedback stories?
What do you mean?
Or worse, for that matter.
The thing about webcomics is that you get great audience feedback because you don't have that with newspaper strips. You have usually a contact link on your site, and maybe you put your email out on it for everyone to write to you. So what stories do we have about oddities or really extreme reactions?
And everybody looks over at Jenny.
I'm going through the list. I'm like, which one's appropriate?
They're all appropriate.
They're all appropriate.
DragonCon.
They have it. Some of them will make you cry.
Oh,
No.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going with the good stuff,
Yeah, look for cringe.
if we're going with, and by good, I mean like the nice stuff, not like the hate mail and whatnot.
Well, that's daily for me.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of, it helped me through depressions, a lot of those, helped me bond with my kids, kind of a thing, which are all super, make all the hate mail almost worth it. I mean, I say that because that stuff really can take a toll. Like, you like to think that you can let it roll off your back, and like when it's one or two people, usually it can. But the problem is, it all accumulates and can turn into like when you think that you're calling a dude a jerk. Say, let's take William Shatner when he didn't make it to Leonard Nimoy's funeral. Like, one person was like, I'm going to call William Shatner a jerk, no big deal. But when you're hearing that from 8 million people, like, think about that. Like, think about walking into Madison Square Garden and having the entire audience just like flip you off, and not only flip you off, but say that like they want to kill you and like rape your mom. I'm serious. Like, think about like Sarkeesian, what she's had to go through. Not to get like super political, but like that shit's not funny.
no.
It's really not.
It's sort of an agree or disagree. That's a lot of weight for a person to have to carry.
Yeah,
kind of
like-
situation.
It's one person having to carry all that hate and animosity. Like, think when you were in high school, when people didn't like you, how much that sucked. Extrapolate that by like 100,000. Like, I've seen people come this close to pulling that trigger, and not a metaphorical trigger, an actual trigger. So, sorry to.
Thank you so much for taking that so we don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, we're all just flesh and blood up here. A lot of people forget that.
Well, I've had a couple of times, and I've heard
Speak for
that
yourself, human.
Scott Kurtz kind of said the same thing. That you
Yeah,
usually get,
yeah. Scott's had to deal with some stuff.
Well, like you get an email that says, "Hey, you suck," and he said that he's responded with, "Sorry you feel that way," and I had one that was like, "Hey, that comic wasn't funny," and I responded with, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and he had said as well, you get the email back of, "Oh my God, you read that?" Oh, no. You
Yeah.
misunderstood. I didn't mean you suck. What I meant was, inevitably, and the email that I got of that comic isn't funny, the lady was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I had a bad week. your comic hit too close to home, something bad had happened, and I just took it personally, and now that I've stepped back from it, it's all cool, and the interaction with the reader is so very direct, and it's so very direct, which is awesome and horrifying. I did have a girl at a convention come up to me, and she was in high school, and she said, your comic makes me feel like I'm not broken. That pre-internet, we forget that we didn't have a connection with everybody. So if you were that one kid in school who was into comics or was into anime or was into that one thing, you felt like you were the only kid in the world that was into it. Yeah. And so now we've got this media where we can be like, I'm the only kid in my high school, but I can go online or go to a convention and, oh my God, you're in the same, you like Naruto too? I like Naruto, we're best friends.
It's weird, it extrapolates in both ways. Mm-hmm. Like, you felt isolated and now you have all these people that you connect with, or it works in I have 5 people that don't like me, now I have 100,000 people that don't like me. It's a really weird, the internet is powerful,
it's
man.
An amplification device.
It will chew you up and spit you out.
Like, honestly, for us, we try and, like, if anybody is, like, a little bit, like, snarky about something, I'm like, well, whatever. And I usually leave it. I don't try and interact a bunch, but I don't try and fight anything because I'm just going to leave it. People are going to run their course, and that's cool. But, I mean, the stuff that we love is when we get, like, people coming to the table like, oh, my gosh, I read the book, and I did it all in one night, and I'm so happy I did.
Yeah, and Rainbow is a big book. Right. That's almost 360 pages. And when people come back the next day and say they read the whole thing last night, that's impressive. I wouldn't do that, and I wrote the thing.
Right. And getting fangirls who come back for Uniques and are like, I totally ship these characters together. I'm like,
well, they got to be girls.
Comfort,
come on.
I love shipping stories. It's funny. And hearing back from people who have taken completely the wrong understanding of your character, and they're so excited by who the character is, and they're like, oh man, he's great, and he really connects with me because of this, that, and the other. Like, wow, you're going to be so disappointed later.
But I still love that.
But it's great because you realize...
Welcome to trying to make fun of Batman.
Yeah. You realize how much these stories become everybody's property after they leave your hands. You realize how much of an impact you can have with things you did not even think about. A throwaway line in one bubble on one page of one issue, and people have extrapolated whole personalities.
They've written fanfic on that.
Because that line mattered so much to them. And it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, the first time I ever heard the term trigger warning was in context of one of my strips.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not a good way to hear it.
No. But on the other hand, like your experience, was Kevin and Kel's about people is opposites coming together. I've heard from all kinds of opposites of thanking me for it. So it really is the entire spectrum. That is something that was impossible before the online medium came along. The audience never had a way of communicating that directly. They would have to write a letter to their newspaper, hope the newspaper forwarded it to the syndicate, hope the syndicate forwarded it to the audience, to the cartoonist, and here it's one click. But the way that really helps is that I introduced a character into Fast Track named Dethany in 2010 as kind of a throwaway character at the time. I didn't have big plans for her, and the audience feedback just flooded, and she's pretty much taken over the strip now. I wouldn't have known otherwise.
It's kind of interesting because it also works sort of both ways, where you find that you can kind of help directly maybe make somebody think about something, even outside of the context of the comic. Actually, that happened to me today. I kind of shot my mouth off when I shouldn't have, as I want to do, and the person I was shooting my mouth about heard me and confronted me about it, to which I obviously apologized because it was the wrong thing to say, and I wholly accept that I was wrong about it. And when you get to a certain point, you realize that, like, being a fan of Spider-Man all my life, great power, great responsibility, not that I have great power, but I've always believed with any degree of power comes an equal degree of responsibility. So, you know, like I took to the Facebook page and was like, guys, like I screwed up today. You know, don't do what I did. You try to lead by example, whether it's doing something right or trying to prevent somebody from when you do something wrong. And I had somebody that was kind of like, I'm here for your art, not your life drama. And I was like, you don't get it. Like, I'm trying to, like, for the people that come up to us and ask us, how do you become webcomic guys? Like, what does it take? It's like, well, it's more than just knowing how to draw. You also know what to say, what not to be saying, when to say what people say you shouldn't be saying, things like that. Like, you can use it as like a learning tool, both in terms of your art and in terms of how you present yourself, because I'd like to think that everyone out here thinks that they're a good person and thinks that they know something that they could maybe help somebody become an equally good person. So like when you're in that position, you don't want to like preach to people, but you know, it's like, why not kind of chime in or something?
Yeah. You're there to be, you know, in part of...
And it really is a culture of personality now.
Yeah.
Like, let's not pretend anything else. So like...
Your product isn't your product, guys.
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
You're selling yourself. You were trying to make people like you, and hopefully it's not difficult for you to put up a reasonable impression of a decent human being. But that's, you know, people want the world to hear their story. There's this thing we call the me show, right? And that says that everything I ever do, the world wants to know about. You know, my Twitter
Facebook,
feed,
Twitter,
my
whatever.
Tumblr feed is a story that people care about. I choose these animated
Gifts.
These gifts for a
Gifs.
reason. They
I
represent
choose these
something.
animated gifs very specifically, and it matters, by God. And this is what like Kickstarter taps into, because Kickstarter is a way of, I'm not buying something, I am funding, I am making something happen by giving my money to somebody who's going to make it happen. You know, and when a Kickstarter project succeeds, it's not that they made the thing, it's that I helped make the thing.
All right, you, the audience, succeeds with you, and being able to tap into that and finding a way to, you know, love that and embrace it is what can help make you.
And
you.
then your story becomes part of their story. And your successes and failures, your ups and downs, become part of their ups and downs.
It's almost like a sporting event.
The lives intertwine.
Like
It's
they're
very
actually like
much a
rooting
sporting
for you.
event.
Yeah, they're invested in it.
Yeah.
I really want to go to a
Hipster,
con
why funded
someday.
that?
I want to go to a con and see people with
Yeah.
like the
You get the
split
bag.
paint,
They're your
the
shareholders.
CNA. That would be fun.
Did the audience have any questions? Because we can keep on this vein and keep going for the entire time. But
Could you say again what comics you were from? Because I didn't hear it all, and I was writing them down.
All right.
The Devil's Panties,
Okay, got that.
not as naughty as it sounds.
JL8, so like letter J, letter L, number 8. It used to be called Little League, but they didn't like that.
KevinandKell.com.
And
Well, and on the Fast Track and Safe Havens, but they're also newspapers.
You do
Yeah, no,
everything.
things.
I do Accidental Centaurs and Random Acts of Nancy, which is a spin-off from Nancy, Nancy and Sluggo.
Yeah, John is an assistant for the Nancy comic strip. So it's
It's authorized.
yeah, authorized. This isn't
It's
like,
legit.
This isn't like Garfield without Garfield or the
Or JL8.
or the dysfunctional family circus.
Yeah, or especially not that one.
And we do the Uniques and Rainbow in the Dark, both of which can be found at at comfortandadam.com.
And-
Both of which are much dirtier than they sound.
They Gosh. We also do the complete guide to self-publishing comics, and that came out through Random House.
The only book that we did not self-publish is the book on self-publishing.
Ironic, no?
I know.
They demanded it. We
Yeah.
didn't want self-publishing in the title.
We were like, we would like to call it, because we wanted it to be a Rosetta Stone, like the complete guide to creating comics, manga, and webcomics. And we're like, that's very good. And we got sidebars, like a few people, 2 people here on this panel, hey, were doing did sidebars in the book. And so we got people from comics, manga, and webcomics to do sidebars. We talked about the whole thing.
And more importantly, people are scared of self-publishing.
Yeah.
right? It seems
Oh,
like
yeah.
a big spooky concept to get into. And so we were trying to stealth them into it. We tried to tell them, like, if you put self-publishing in the title, people will be afraid because they think, I don't want to do that. But if we do a book that says something else, and then through the course of reading it, they discover, hey, I could do that, then we're going to get more traction. But no, Random House insisted that the title
Self-publishing.
inform people that you don't need Random House. All right.
I mean, if that's what you want, and they're like, no, self-publishing is hot, and I was like, well, okay.
They think they're Mike Tyson, but they're totally Glass Joe right now. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. They're asking for it.
I understood that reference.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions?
Yes.
Probably.
Great question.
JL8 started in such a bizarre way. So it started off, I was working on a creator-owned self-published
Yep.
thing called Gifted that was...
Which is also very good.
Don't believe her. But it wasn't like autobiographical, but I wanted to set it in St. Louis, which is where I'm from. And I just moved back from Savannah, where you don't need a car, to St. Louis, where you do need a car. And I didn't have a way to get to the places where I needed to take the reference photos. Because they were like personal places, not like the Arch and stuff where I could Google it. So anyway, I didn't want to fall into the trap of like, oh, well, like when I get the car, I'll do it. I was like, no, I gotta stay busy somehow. I need to come up with some kind of concept that I can work on, even if it's literally just to show my friends. And that's where JL8 came in. It was always just meant to be, and at this time it was a little, actually at this time it didn't have a name, but it just kind of popped in there one day. I was helping my dad at his warehouse working on a conveyor belt, which if you've ever worked on a conveyor belt, you don't really need to think that much. And, you know, it just kind of came to me. I did the first one. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Okay. Did the second one, did the third one, did the fourth one, because I was kind of on a roll. And my buddy Trad Moore, I don't know if any of you know who that is, Luther Strode, all-new ghostwriter, very talented, very cool guy, was like, you should really put these on Tumblr. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, at the very least, people are going to be upset with me because like I'm taking characters that belong to other people and, you know, making a comic about, which a lot of people are upset with me with. And yeah, so I put it up there. You know, Trad's a very charismatic and convincing person. I put it up there, and you know, it just was what it was. You know, it's getting like 10 new readers a week or something like that. And then Kate Leth reblogged it, and you know, like all of a sudden it became this thing that like I couldn't really ignore, because I'm also a person that I'm a very obligated person, especially to people I don't know, which is like totally backwards. But so all of a sudden I had like 500 readers, 1,000 readers, 2,000, 5,000. IO9 did an article, 25,000 readers. Oh my God, I can't stop because they're all going to be mad at me. Never mind this giant corporate thing that can put me in prison. I was like, no, you guys, like I don't want you after me. No. So let me just, you know, never print it, never sell prints of the strips themselves, keep it online for free. Like, I've tried pitching it to them. Like, they know what it is. But yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend doing this. No, like seriously, I gamed the system, and I wholly admit to that. Like, all these guys are way more talented than I am because they came up with completely original concepts. I didn't.
Do you have advertising on your site?
No, I don't have no advertising, no donate button, no nothing. It's just Facebook.
You're probably clear then.
Dude, with the way that copyright law has gone these days,
in the
I don't
clear
think
it tends
you're
to
ever
be.
clear.
In the clear is defined by who has the most money.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, if they want to, they could. If they don't, they
They
don't.
don't.
We've heard this from lawyers too.
I think it's kind of like a stalemate, because either way it's opening Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Like if they come after me, they have to come after all of us, and there are a lot of us. You've been on DeviantArt, you know that. But if they bring me into the fold, everyone's going to do what I do, and that's going to be a problem. So right now, I'm just kind of a man without a country, and maybe that's for the best. Like maybe if I worked for DC, I couldn't do it as well as I do. Maybe if I worked for DC, I could do it better than I do. I'll never know. For better or worse. Yeah.
Go to the back.
Do you have any revenue stream, any monetization?
Not from the strip itself, but the strip generates a fan base which are interested in like commission like work and prints, like unique prints. Like I'll do stuff different enough that, you know, like everybody else does. When you walk around a show, you see Batman and Robin, you know, whatever. And like, you know, I'll keep the, because JL8 does have a logo, so like I'll keep the logo off of it to where it's not like officially a JL8 thing, and which is also why I don't actually use like panels from this, you know, like, because there are some things that are like really like Dirtface Bruce, everybody like that, but that is like explicitly from the comic, and it doesn't have power without being a part of the comic. You see what I'm saying? So like if I made merchandise with that, they could clearly say that doesn't hold any water unless it's attached to this thing that you do. Whereas anybody might like Batman and Superman walking down the sidewalk, casting long shadows like they're adults, and oh my god, it's so cute, even though I just ripped it off the Phantom Menace poster. Which I did. I totally admit to that. It was a cool poster. That was like the one cool thing. Like when I was 9, I thought that was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, oh my god, that's Darth Vader's shadow. That's the coolest thing. That's so deep. So yeah, like I'll make it different enough, and then, you know, like I do freelance work on the side. You know, like I've done the Nova thing for Marvel, and I did the Luther Strode stuff for Trad and them, and right now I'm doing some work for Dynamite, and here and there. But no, I've been lucky enough to be fast. I work fast and have enough fans who are willing to pay just enough money for a commission to basically keep me able to do that as like my primary job while still doing JL8 in my free time, basically. And then, you know, like I come to shows and sell my knickknacks and whatever.
Like you do.
What?
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 Like we do.
What? Gracious.
Next question.
Protected by like parody laws?
I might be. I don't know.
Actually, this is something.
I like to think so.
Well, one thing that affects parody laws is if it's a one-off. Like if you just did a one-off parody of a character, they're not going to mind.
Or like a Mad Magazine.
Yeah, but
spoof.
if you have a regular ongoing character from another strip, that sometimes starts setting off bells.
We can speak to this a little bit with.
Just need to repeat the question real quickly.
So the question was, is JL8 safe under parody law?
Yeah.
Which that was kind of what I was operating. Again, like I said, it was only ever meant to be like 5 or 10 strips or whatever. So I was like, oh, surely that small amount would be safe that way. But then I just kept going with it because I didn't want to upset people. Yada yada yada. I already told you this. So I hope so, but I don't really hold out a whole lot of hope for that.
All right.
Yeah, when we did Rainbow in the Dark, one of the things we wanted to do, one of the gimmicks of the story, is that it's a very musically inspired book, and we wanted to do a subliminal soundtrack. So we have the characters speaking sometimes in song quotes.
Right, not full song quotes,
No, just
but
snippets, like a
teeny tiny
line.
snippets.
Like a
they
little
say, the monsters are coming, and somebody says, "Run for the hills!
Run to the hills, run for your life!"
lives."
You know, little things. Because when I hear somebody say something and it reminds me of a song, the song is in my head all day. So we thought, can we make you hear music while reading a comic? Can we make a musical comic? And our concern was, how safe are we in fair use by quoting song lyrics? Where is the line there? And we talked to a lawyer about it, and his takeaway was, well, you're doing it right, you'll be fine, there's nothing illegal about what you're doing. That doesn't mean they won't come after you. That doesn't mean you'll win.
Right, because it is who has the most money.
They'll just keep you in court.
We could be in the right. So sometimes when you're doing these things, you're just taking a risk. We had people that we knew back in college who were doing something that had just a duck in it. And Disney, back then, came after them and shut them down completely. Not because it was like any of their characters at all, just because they wanted to shut them down.
Because that's what Disney does.
They come
Yeah.
after people when they try to do Beauty and the Beast and claim that it's copyright infringement on public domain, not for any other reason than because they know they can scare you with their lawyers.
They
And
came
know
after
you-
Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made him wear pants.
Yep.
Well, because like they will win the war of attrition.
Yes.
Which is what it is.
They
like
have
they can
billions
afford the
of
court
dollars.
costs. They can afford the retainers. You cannot.
And there is no speedy trial. You will sit waiting for your trial for however many years it takes for you to run out of money, so you lose.
Did you have a question?
I was wondering if you ever considered making your own original content.
Yeah. Not of JL8. I've had people that are like, oh, why don't you just make them different kids with similar powers? To me, that's not
Well,
interesting.
I mean,
But no, like as a completely unique concept. Yeah, all the time. I just haven't really found any that I'm super sold on quite yet. Because no, I mean like I am proud of JL8. I'm happy with what I've done, and I don't think it's quite as good as some people say it is. But like when you get nominated for a Harvey, it's kind of hard not to pay attention because that comes from your peers, like other people in comics. That means a lot to me personally. But I'm not really comfortable with it being my entire legacy. You know, like I go down as the greatest fan artist who ever lived. Like, no, like I think that there's more to what I have to bring to the table than that. But at the same time, because JL8 has been so successful, there's like a lot of pressure to make that second thing awesome. I mean, you see it with the greatest, and I mean, God, look at how amazing Bone is, and Rassel's certainly not bad, but like I can't even imagine what Jeff Smith must feel when trying to come up with a new concept, because Bone is it's never going to go away, because the thing's a freaking masterpiece.
The sophomore curse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's on his third work now.
Yeah.
I know.
Tuki,
There you
it's
go.
a webcomic.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bone. Oh yeah, know that. So what's he doing now? The whatever. The guy that did Bone. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a question in
He
the
will
yellow,
always be the guy that did Bone.
Yeah.
question in the yellow sweater.
I guess this is actually for the whole panel too.
Thank God.
But we're gonna start with you anyway.
Where do you pull your inspiration from? Because I understand like every webcomic, not only are you the artist, you're also the storyteller. And you have to be a comedian to an extent, depending on what kind of storytelling you have. Where do you pull your inspiration?
I get a mail order from Schenectady. There's a warehouse on a website too. That's right. That's Harlan Ellison's answer to that question. Oh God! Now Harlan's going to sue me. I'm dead.
Yeah. Last week, Roz Chast had a New Yorker cover. No, it wasn't a New Yorker. It was the cover of the Cartoonist. The SCS newsletter. I always associated her with the New Yorker, but it had
It's
a
usually
bottle
the
of
best bet,
Yeah,
best guess.
It had a bottle of ink with the label 10,000 ideas inside. Yeah, that's about right.
For us, I think, being inspired, I think, by the people that we know and the moments that we've seen. Like, there's so many times, that somebody says something and we're like, oh, what a good idea for, like, a full story for this character to say whatever. Like, I think the thing that I want to get out there is that inspiration is, and it sounds cheesy and cliche, but it is everywhere, and you've always got to be watching. We were seeing it. We saw a movie at one point where one of the characters was in death battle thing. Yes.
We watched the sci-fi adaptation of
Yes.
Dune. And there comes the scene, as there does in a lot of science fiction, where the character who is in this primitive culture now is forced to have a death battle in order to save his life.
Right.
And it comes to the end, and he wins the battle, and everybody's like, you must kill him. And he's like, why? Because it is our culture. And we turned to each other, and I said to Comfort, I would really love for there to be a guy who goes back in time and has to do the death battle thing, get to that moment of the scene, and they're like, you must, it's our culture. He says, no, and they say, why? Because it's stupid. Because you're dumb. Your culture's dumb, and this is dumb, and I'm not
You
killing
should
this
feel bad about it,
random
too.
guy. And from that sprouted this entire time travel story about a guy going. I mean, it started with a guy going through time telling people that they're dumb. But
And it eventually became a story.
I think I know how that ends.
Wow, Megan.
I think, that's
know.
enormous. Way.
And because it's us, nothing ever stays like just purely comedic. It had to become some level of serious and poignant. But the point is that the ball starts, who knows where,
Right.
and then it just gets rolling. And everything that you're thinking and talking about, things you see become another bit of momentum to keep that ball rolling.
If anybody's
and
ever
changing.
seen like our Let's Make a Character panels or Let's Make a Comic, we're taking raw ideas and we're building it into a story in the span of 20 minutes with an audience. And we usually can come up with stuff that's pretty good.
Ish.
But
It's good adjacent.
To give a serious and not smart-ass answer like I did before, what they were saying absolutely can come from anywhere. I did one story where the genesis of it came from passing a kidney stone. And the pain and wanting to die from that led to this, was the inspiration for a whole story. So you never know where it comes from. Yeah, and then the drugs. Oh, yeah. And if you've read the story, you know where the drugs came in. But no, it literally can come from anything, and sometimes not even be from a not so pleasant experience. So.
I cheat. I steal. I have an app on my phone that constantly records, and then I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, everybody laughed when that thing happened. I'll just illustrate that.
Well, remember what Picasso said: "Good artists copy, great artists steal." So.
And fiction is harder because it has to be believable.
Right?
That's the truth.
I'm sorry, that.
Yours is like semi-autobiographical. Anyway, what the question I have is, how did you get your audience to go beyond just your friends and family who read it because it's about you, and how did you get it out there where more people were reading it?
I on one hand I have no idea.
This is a marketing question.
Well, because when I posted it, this was in 2001 on Drunk Duck, and it was like, oh, you have 200 people reading your comic, and I was like, I don't know 200 people. Somebody who I don't know is reading my comic. But the thing with the because it's semi part of the autobiographical. So when the funny thing happens, first I have to figure out what made it funny, and then I have to figure out how to fit it in 4 panels. So it's not always true-ish. In the beginning of Men Who Stare at Goats, it says, you'd be surprised at what we didn't have to make up. And so I definitely have parts of it, I have to make up some of it just to get it to flow. And it's getting it to the funny part. So, eating my cereal in the morning isn't necessarily funny. But the conversations that we've all had recently, it was, honey, if I ever die, there's a file on my computer that you have to delete. and he said, oh, it's your porn file. I said, no, it's my fanfic file. and so everyone has that, don't look at my search history. Please, sweetie, please clear my search history. If anything happens to me, that's our bond. So, yeah.
You mean you didn't blow up your house after you saw a spider?
Almost. Really close. We have insurance.
Big spider.
Fine, big spider. I tried to squish it and it disappeared.
What do they eat, those spiders in their house? There's no bug, but there's spiders everywhere. Sorry.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go green shirt and then white shirt and then gray shirt and then redhead.
Remember your order.
Remember your color. So.
So my question for everyone is what is the hard part about keeping yourself to be on schedule?
Oh.
Well, thanks for coming, guys. It's been a great panel.
Not updating isn't an option because those couple of readers that I got that I scraped together, I'm gonna lose them like a sieve if I miss an update. And so I've come home from a bachelorette party drunk, And I have found a back of a mailing envelope, and I take a Sharpie and I scribbled, "I'm drunk," and I posted that. So it doesn't have to be good; it just has to be done. And this poor man has been kicking and screaming about, no, it has to be good and done.
Would you pay somebody to sit behind you with a cattle prod?
I'm married.
That'd be really difficult to
You just
draw.
married him, that's all.
By the way, the question was about keeping on schedule.
It really just boils
playing at
down
home.
to knowing yourself, really. Like, everyone works differently. Like, some people are morning people, some people are night people, some people, work in intense bursts, some people kind of chip away. And all of those are totally valid ways of doing it. The thing is, like, you kind of need to find your sweet spot. Because when you're trying to fit however you work into a different method, a lot of times you're just going to get frustrated and tired and you're not going to get anything done. I find that I work really well either early in the morning, which is weird because I'm not a morning person, but I just like being up. Like, if I can comfortably wake up in the morning, that's when I get the most work done. Like, I'll go out for a walk, eat cereal and watch Reading Rainbow because it's on Netflix now, or Bill Nye or something.
You don't have to take his word for it.
And and like I'll sit down and get to work. I think part of that helps because I know all my friends and stuff are also at work, as opposed to later when I've slept in all day and I should be working, but like all of them are off now. So like if I want to call them or hang out or whatever, like they're free to do that. And then just late at night, you just fall down wormholes of YouTube and Wikipedia and stupid crap.
Well,
no, go ahead. That's pretty much the gist of it.
Basically, my schedule is that I spend a week writing 3 weeks worth of material for one of my scripts, say Fast Track, while drawing up the 3 weeks of material that I'd written the week before for, say, Safe Havens. Then the next week comes along, I draw up those 3 weeks of Fast Track while writing 3 weeks worth of material for Kevin and Kel, and the ball just keeps rolling.
Yeah, to add on to that, breaking it up does help me. I don't know if it helps everybody else, but
absolutely.
So like I'll really enjoy just like penciling like 3 or 4 updates or pages or whatever you want to call them, and then like my inking days will be like the next 2 days, and then like my coloring days will be the following. Sometimes I do want to just bang it all out in one shot, but sometimes doing it that way can help. I remember Jim Lee was saying, however you feel about Jim Lee, like the dude knows how to get work done. That like when he wants to try and work on multiple pages at once, he'll like intentionally leave one unfinished, because once he finishes the first one, he feels like, oh, I've at least got that one page done. I think I can be done for the day.
License to slack.
Exactly. So yeah, sometimes, people have a hard time staying on like one, because even though you're penciling and inking and coloring, like, it's still that same page. So sometimes it's refreshing to be like, okay, like I'm still penciling, but I'm solving a different problem over here.
Well, the beauty of my schedule is that I do have a week's delay between when I write it and when I draw it. So I inevitably come back to it after a week and go, oh, I can make that better.
Like soft editing.
Yeah.
So basically, Bill, you're organized.
Yes.
I hate you.
I'm extremely OCD organized.
Yeah, seriously, Bill is doing three strips at one time. He is the hardest working man in comics, and whenever he finishes the strips, someone has to come out and put a cape over it.
No one gets that.
No one gets that.
I get
James
it.
Brown,
Elvis.
please. All right. Anyway, but on mine, Random Acts of Nancy, I have to do that every day, but that takes maybe 15 minutes to pull an old Bushmiller panel and color it and post it. Centaurs, that's a little different. Hasn't updated in 3 months now, but I've been writing, so it's a little bit different animal than the Nancy panels are. So with me, it's when I can get them done, and because I don't want to just slap it out just in order to meet a schedule. I want it to be good. So I would rather take the brickbats and the cat calls for not having it on time rather than put a piece of garbage up. So
Well, see, with that though, because like when you do webcomics, the chances of you missing an update are very high. But I found that if you communicate to the audience about
Yes.
it, they will be infinitely
I will-
more forgiving than if
I
you
will
just
post-
if you do kind of like the whole like I don't really want to confront the problem, so I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah, when I put up a post that says, "Sorry
Yeah.
guys, it's not going to be. I'm not going to make it. It's still in progress." But I'll take your time. You know, you got a real life. You got clients. You got stuff that you're working on.
I've had people stop believing that they were on the internet because of how uniformly positive the comment thread was. No, I'm
I
serious.
slipped into another dimension
Yeah,
where all the positive comments are positive.
Yeah, because like I was gonna miss an update, and I had like
There are no
150
trolls
comments
here.
on the JLA page of just like, "Don't worry about it. We're here.
yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. Whatever." And people were like, "This is insane. What is happening right now?"
People do love getting something regularly, even if it's just, "Hey, it's not coming today." As long as something comes from you regularly, and I'm bad about not doing it, because it'll be 2:00 in the morning. I realize, oh, it's not going to go up, so I might as well just go to bed. But I really should just stop and post, hey, it's not going to be on time. It's not going to be here. We'll start up on Monday, whatever. Anything is better than nothing on a regular schedule.
I think it also kind of humanizes us a little bit too.
Well, it does.
Depending on how you say it. But like if they can tell that it's not just like some pre-pressed apology.
Now, of course, I would love to have the level of organization and the work ethic of this guy. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather never miss an update
I would
than have
too.
the world's longest positive comment thread. But
So comfort and Adam, under 60 seconds.
We work differently in that we release full chapters at a time rather than a page a week.
Right, and our full chapters will be 32 full color, very nice, like
pages.
yeah.
So the thing that we had to understand and that you should understand is the most important thing is to be honest with yourself about your capabilities. Do not gauge what you can get done by what you did under the gun of an impossible deadline, because you can't keep those hours constantly. The train's going to derail. We found that we can comfortably, if we've got nothing else happening, if no other problems come up, in a perfect world where we can just work, we can get a full issue, start to finish, about 2 months.
But if we've got other things, we have to be honest with other people and say, hey, this is what we're having. But for you guys, just get used to working and working a lot. Like, I think the idea is to get used to not stopping and trying not to fall down tumbler holes and not to get caught up with other things. You go to work and your work is every day, all the time, and you are pumped and ready to go, and you're not going to let anything stop you.
There is an amount of assembly line to it, and that happens very naturally. That doesn't mean you enjoy it less, although sometimes you will, and that doesn't mean that you have less passion for what you're doing, although sometimes you will have less. It just means that in order to produce regularly, at speed, without missing a beat, you have to find a way to get into that groove and just go.
Okay, so we're going to go with white shirt.
My question is...
Did we skip 2 shirts?
Oh, green shirt, white shirt, gray shirt, redhead.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I can't remember anybody's name. I don't know what his birthday
I thought it
is.
went green, gray, white, red, so
Oh, yeah, no,
that's why I was
that would be
confused.
White shirt, go.
So, question.
So, question is, so you made the website, you put out your first comic. What's your guys' next step? Like,
Doing the second comic.
Yeah, so the question was, we made the site, we made the first comic, what do we do next?
I mean,
They're asking us to repeat the question, by the way, we're not just being weird up here.
Well, we are. But
I was wondering, like, marketing-wise, do you just let it be organic and you just keep on putting the next one, or do you just go to, like, social media and start, like, putting this out, like, I've got this comic?
When we started with Uniques, we spent a year working on scripts before we drew a page. And during that year, we were also doing character design stuff, working out world building, and we posted something about this project we have coming
Every Monday, every week for a year, building interest in Uniques before it even existed. And we had a blog that updated every day,
Right.
all the time. It was consistency.
Right. So if you're waiting until your first comic is out to talk about it, you're doing it wrong. Start building interest in you and your work and this idea before you get out there, so you've got some people paying attention.
And be all on them internets, guys, everywhere.
Yeah.
Even though you can't fall down a Tumblr hole, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have a Tumblr and a Twitter. And maybe you hate Facebook, but suck it up.
Or get your
Facebook.
wife to have a Facebook. And then you can maintain ethical purity.
At some point that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you put something out and then it becomes like it becomes your motivation to keep going.
Somewhat. I mean, it's like Yale said, once you've got people interested in your thing, you feel indebted to them to keep producing.
I better
for
really
them.
finish this.
Yeah.
I should be a professional.
You will probably never be as grateful to anybody besides maybe your parents than you are to your first fans. The people who were there at the beginning telling you they like what you do when you didn't know if anybody would like what you're doing. And for those people, you will cross rivers of fire.
Yeah.
I've had people following me for 20 years.
Holy God.
He was on the internet.
But they haven't
before
caught
the
up to him
internet
yet.
existed.
That's true, because I started on CompuServe. How many people remember CompuServe? Yes.
We're at DragonCon.
Okay, you don't remember James Brown, but you remember CompuServe. Great.
We are in the internet.
Yeah, whatever.
So do we want to go on to Gray Shirt?
So besides not falling behind on the schedule, what are some of the worst things to do before making a
Not posting it.
Not putting your URL on it so that when it starts being shared and it goes viral or it gets posted on like Reddit or something, then everyone's like, so it gets posted on Reddit with hamburger.com stuck to the side of it, and everyone's like, this comic is amazing, and you're like, hey, that's mine.
And some people take the URL off.
Yes, they take the URL
They'll take everything off. They'll chop those panels up, rearrange them, do whatever the hell. It is.
Make it a Jesus comic.
But if people are legitimately interested in you.
Oh, because that won't get defaced.
They can find you, and sometimes they do the image search. Like one of the things that's not just our books, but like we did a big Game of Thrones poster, and it was like Game of Thrones by way of Days of Future Past, and it
remember
got
that.
super popular.
It's the closest we ever came to going viral.
And people would constantly chop off like the URL from
Cutting
it.
off, we tried to take care of ourselves by putting it over part of the image. It would
Oh, they don't
crop
care.
it in ugly ways. What
Yeah.
the lesson there is, you can't stop that stuff, so you can't drive yourself crazy trying.
But
You just kinda have to find
oftentimes
ways to roll
people
with it.
can, if they're really savvy, they can do a search and like track it back for that particular image and find.
You do what you can. You do what you can to try and make sure it links back, but at a certain point, it's whack-a-mole. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to catch every little thing.
But
And
catch-
your fans will have your back a lot of the time.
Yeah.
they'll say, "Oh, that was
fans
from
will see
so-and-so."
it and they will say something, or like a lot of times they'll try and direct you to it as well. But like a lot of times they'll be like, "Oh, this is actually from this thing."
Yep.
So yeah, like unless people are like straight up trying to sell your stuff, like what was that wall part or whatever, that thing that was like a really big deal very recently.
Please God kill everyone.
No, it was like some site recently where like everyone's stuff was showing up on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Also Redbubble.
yeah.
Also Redbubble. But like these sites that are just shamelessly, I mean, like Lowish and Katie Shanahan have their stuff pop up on that crap all the time, where they're just straight up profiting on stolen artwork. Like, yeah, it sucks to be on like Reddit and like have 100,000 upvotes and people have no idea who you are. But it kind of just, we're on the internet. That sort of is what it is. But when people are straight up like truly making money off of it,
making merchandise and stuff. That's the frustrating thing.
yeah.
Okay, redhead and then button down shirt.
Is there ever a point when you should give up on a comic and try the next idea?
Is there ever a point when you should give up on a comic and move on to the next idea?
I think so. I think there are a few different ways to go about it, but I think that if you just don't want to do it anymore, like, why keep going?
Why kill yourself on something that makes you miserable?
Yeah. Or also like in a more successful light, if you had an end in mind, but your readers want it to just keep going forever.
End it.
That end is going. Think of every favorite thing you've ever had. It had an end. All the greatest comics you've ever read, all your favorite movies, all your favorite songs, it had an end. And that ends are good things. So yeah, which is kind of like why I'm really worried about One Piece. Like, One Piece is too damn good. And like, I'm really worried that there's, because that is totally a story that you could just go forever. And it's like, oh man, I hope that they wrap that up at some point.
There is some logic to that dream project that you have, like the story you've been working on for ages in your head. That's like the thing you want to do. Don't do that first.
Right.
Because
True.
you're overcommitting to something you might not be ready for. And if you love the idea that much, respect it enough to be good first. And to have
It's like you
built
can't
yourself
walk,
first.
but you want to run a decathlon.
Right.
Like you just don't have the skill set yet.
Right. Just as a little thing for us, we started off with our dream project, which is the Uniques. Woo! And we did 9 issues, and it had critical acclaim, and it was awesome, and it was great. But we knew we kind of weren't ready to fully tell that story at the end of 9 issues, and so we moved on to Rainbow in the Dark for 9 issues, and that was a complete series. But when we came back to Uniques, we are currently refurbishing that and doing an extended director's cut of it because we needed to make it the story that it had to be, but couldn't back in 2008 when we were 26.
And we do not recommend you ever do that. There are reasons why it makes sense for us, and to us it makes sense. But if anybody were ever to come up to me at my table and say, you know, I had this thing I did, and I really love it, and I want to keep going, but I feel like the opening isn't strong enough, should I go back? I would every time tell them, no, keep going forward. Don't look back.
Because you can kill your passion for it.
You can.
Like, that's what I did with Gifted. I redrew that first issue like 3 times.
And you're never
And now,
going
like, I don't
to-
even want to touch it again.
You're never going to be
The whole
satisfied.
thing.
You're going to keep getting better and then keep looking back at the old stuff feeling like it's not good enough, and you're just going to be stuck in this loop. So hold on to the idea you want most until you feel like you're until you've worked out some of the problems you're going to have, until you've been doing this enough that you have confidence in yourself and in your craft.
Free to work on sometimes other people's stuff for years before we even started Uniques, which was what made us as good as we were. And we were pretty darn good when we started. We were.
Can we do the?
But what made us so good was that we worked for years on people's like pitch books and stuff.
Yeah.
People were like, "Oh, I want you to work on my comic," and I was like, "Sweet, give me money." And you know, it was nice stuff, but it wasn't great because we weren't at the top of our game yet. But we were practicing on other people's work, and sometimes even
And on
if
other
you're doing
people's
it for free.
dimes, too.
And other
Yeah.
people's dimes.
Here's the thing, and we've been confronted by this in the past, the question of, like, if you're using this as a learning project, is it worth it? Or why are you doing this on my money? And at the end of the day...
Because you're willing to give me money, that's why.
At the end of the day, we're not working any less hard.
Yeah.
We're putting in our time. In order for us to produce a comic for you, we basically do nothing else.
At
for
worst,
the
you're trying to
duration
see how
of
good you
the
can
time.
be.
Yeah.
So
And if
we're-
these ideas you have
Yeah,
work.
so we're maybe not as good as we will get at some point. And we may recognize we're not yet the creators we're going to be, but that doesn't mean that our time isn't worth it, that we don't deserve to be able to eat, you know?
So we had one last question from Button Down Shirt, but we've run out of time. Do we want to do the fastest answers ever?
Fastest answers ever. Let's go.
Lightning round.
Yes.
I was just going to mention images.google.com to certify image about the thing you're talking about cropped and blurred out images. Because a lot of times on Imager and Reddit, if you look down in the comments, people will find the source and help people out.
Yeah.
There are always people looking out for you.
Word.
Which is surprising on the internet, right?
All right,
But
There
I
are some
think
white
we're-
hats.
I think we're over time.
Yeah, that's it.
But we are all in, and many of you, all of us, right, are in Comics and Pop Art Alley.
Yes.
Which is open again tomorrow.
We're here tomorrow.
Yes.
Come
Table
see us
32.
tomorrow. Table 22.
So come find us there.
Okay, we're in Comics and Pop Art Alley. We're at table 28 and 29.
I'm 31.
32.
21.
Second aisle facing the back wall.
That's the way to do it.
It's across from me and Bill.
Downstairs tonight.
We are
Yep.
almost,
Downstairs
guys,
tonight.
we're almost all in the same
Same
row.
row.
We are.
We are all in the
We
same
are,
row.
like, 'cause-
We are,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think so,
So
yeah.
come find us.
You find one of us, you find all of us.
Good night, drive safely. All right.